I'm Richard Pyatt. Welcome back to another of our episodes at the BC City Connection inside Battle Creek, Michigan. From City Hall, we come to you with various folks who are working for us and helping us to understand what's happening at City Hall. Today, we're talking with Todd Gerber, Field Services Supervisor at the City of Battle Creek. Yeah, it's time to talk about snowtifications. Hello, Todd.
Good afternoon, Richard. How are you?
Great. Thank you for this update. We've had a pretty mild fall. There have been times, boy, I probably shouldn't tempt fate by saying this, but there have been times we've had snow on the ground before Thanksgiving. And this year it's been fairly mild. And that, I suppose, maybe makes it a little easier on you to get things prepared. Is that true?
Yeah, it does. And matter of fact, we talked about this just earlier this week that last year on Halloween we had to bring in some salt trucks due to freezing temperatures and a little light rain. Some of our bridge decks iced over, so we had to salt some of those on Halloween. So it's not common, but it does happen.
Yeah. And were you ready? I mean, are you generally ready to put salt in trucks and get them out on Halloween?
We've got at any given time, there's at least a dozen trucks that could go out in a moment's notice. Some of the trucks will change for different operations through the summer season, but there's at least a dozen that we could put out. So we were fine. We paid attention to the weather forecast, knew that there's potential for that, and it kind of prepped for it. But
Yeah.
when the weather is as nice as what it's been the last few weeks here, or really the whole fall, what it does is it gives us a chance to continue our fall operations, but then gives us more time to prep for the winter. We're able to get our trucks around, maybe spend a little more time on prepping the trucks. We'll go out this time of year and start trimming back some tree branches that may be hanging low, that might interact with our mirrors on the trucks and so on. So it gives us more time to spend doing that, getting ready for what we know is coming.
Yeah. And those trucks are repurposed in the warm weather months, are they not? So you have to get them back ready again for winter.
Yeah, we do everything from haul debris with them to assistance to our street sweepers, trees, whatever the case may be. They can
Yeah.
be reused for a variety of
Okay.
different purposes.
All right. So you can see then clearly that some of the preparations involved are on a greater scale than maybe those of us who are, putting our yard rake away and getting the snowblower out and ready. It's similar, but on a grander scale. And that's what you've been doing at DPW up to now. Now, of course, what happens when weather turns and we start dealing with snow and slippery conditions out there is that we want to know what's happening and what conditions are like and important information. And so the city of Battle Creek is working on something called snowtifications. Clever. What are they, Todd?
So we've kind of rolled this out over the last year or so, where we'll send out a message once a month with maybe a tip or a tidbit of information to the public, to the residents. An example would be check your mailbox, make sure it's got a good solid base on it. The weight of the snow off of our plows could be pretty intensive, especially with the wet, heavy snow that we tend to get nowadays with the warmer temperatures.
Hmm.
Just try to make sure your mailbox is solid and can withstand the impact of snow hitting as we plow. If you have a basketball hoop out there, bring it in out of the road and put it back in the yard, keep it safe. And just tidbits to prep yourself and get back in that mindset of wintertime is coming. The roads are going to be icy. Remember to slow down, leave room around the snowplow so they can do their job, and think winter driving and all of the joys and fun that comes with that.
That is the truth. Years ago, I lived in a town, was not Battle Creek, where I had a roadside a mailbox, and sure enough, we had a lot of snow that year, and they came through the neighborhood with the plow and plowed that right off the post. So this does happen, And so we should prepare accordingly. I see a lot of people, this is just off the top of my head. I see a lot of people with those screens, you might say, wooden barriers in front of their mailboxes. Do those really help fortify them and protect them?
I think they do help. They break up the snow as it sprays past the mailbox. Um,
Yeah.
and they do occasionally get hit. It's not an intentional thing, but when there's that much snow coming off of the road and off the plows, there is an impact from that.
Yeah. A few years ago, we heard from MDOT about a clever idea to name their plows. We're doing that in Battle Creek now too, which is kind of fun to come up with these names, right?
Yeah, we started that last year. We haven't finalized it yet, but we uh, we we put a program out to the public to name the plow. What kind of name do you like? Took some surveys and picked the best or the top 10,
The
the
most popular, yeah.
most popular votes. And but we have 10 of them now. We're going to run another campaign this fall for the remaining 10. And then next year we'll have some names on the trucks. And that should look pretty neat to see those on the side of the wing plow.
Are we ready to talk about some of the names that you have already?
We can.
I love it. So Cleopatra, I think, is my favorite.
Our our top name to date is Control Salt Delete. And if you're spending any time on a computer keyboard, you know exactly where we're going with that.
Yeah,
I like Darth Blader. That's kind of a nice one.
that's a good one too. And I don't mind Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Anti-Snow Machiney.
That one's a mouthful for sure.
Yeah, that's right. Do you
The
have enough room on the side of the plow for that one?
that one might be a bit of a challenge. And if you've seen our snow plows, our snow plows are not itsy bitsy by any means.
That's
Um,
right. So it's a
so
bit of a joke on a few levels, isn't
exactly.
it? Blizzard Wizard, that one's not too bad. So you'll need 10 more.
We'll need 10 more. Yep.
And how are you going to go about doing that? Same way, surveys?
We'll do a survey. We'll let the public just send us a sample name they'd like. And then when we close our session for submittals, then we'll do some voting through the community. And the top 10, assuming they're a different name than what we already have, then we'll have our 20 and they'll be named on the truck next year.
All right. And when folks have an idea to submit, do they just go to the website? What do they do?
I believe our communications team will have a spot to go through to submit that.
Okay. And we'll keep you up to speed on that because this is just a fun thing to do to come up with those names. And people really are clever, cleverer than I would be. I don't plow a bunga. I would never have thought of that. Seymour pavement. That's pretty good too.
Don't forget Scoop Dog.
Scoop Dog. Yeah, very good. So very clever. Nice work, folks. And well, put your thinking caps back on and come up with 10 more because the city will be needing those to name the plow. You know, what else should we tell folks about safety? You talked about not crowding the plow, which is something we've heard, but we need to be reminded. What other things do we need to know just as reminders about winter weather season?
I think probably you touched on it. Just leave space around the plows. The operators in those trucks have got a lot going on for them as they're driving down the road. Even if it looks like they're just driving, they're constantly watching the mirrors, adjusting the plows, and scoping where they're headed. And if there's cars around them, we want to make sure we're aware of where they're at. So sometimes you'll see us with more than one truck together, especially on the larger roads in town. Beckley Road is an example.
Mm-hmm.
We can get 2 or 3 trucks together, clear an entire side of the road at once, and it makes it quicker for us, less impact for the motorist, and but it does provide a bit of a blockade, if you will, and just give folks a little bit of patience and let us do our job, and just remember that just because you can see our truck with the snow coming off of the truck, it may be difficult for us to see your car.
Mm-hmm.
Just stay back and let us get through. we're our job is to get through as quickly as we can and as safely as we can, and just be patient with us, and we'll get through there um, as quickly as we're able to.
You talked about working in tandem there. All you have to do is go to YouTube and search it because you'll find plow videos where they're doing that. But essentially, you're sort of staggered going in the same direction, and one plows one lane, and the next one plows the next lane, and it's a collective work that you get it all done pretty quickly. But right, it creates this opportunity where folks behind you are going to have to wait it out and take it easy, right?
Yeah, and you know, we're not going to be traveling the speed limit on those roads when
Yeah.
we're plowing. So, if you're running late and you come up behind a convoy of plows, we're going to slow you down. It's just the nature of what we have to do. Like I said, we're trying to be there as safely as we can. By convoying multiple trucks together, what we're able to do is get that snow from the center of the road all the way to the side and make a complete clear path. One pass down, one pass back for the most part, and the road
Yeah.
is cleared, rather than we did one lane and then the cars tracked it around, so we had to plow it again. It just allows us to get the roads cleared quicker, and the sooner we can get the major roads cleared first and get into the residential areas, the sooner you can get in and out of your driveway faster.
And it's a pretty slick approach, forgive the pun. But it really does make it work faster. And I always like to see that because you don't want to be trying to get to a clear lane where everybody else is when this lane is not quite clear yet, and it makes for a little bit more of a challenging pass. But when it's all clear at once, boy, that really is nice. One thing that folks might not realize is we shouldn't be shoveling or snow blowing into the road, right? This should not be done.
It should not be done, and it's actually against the law. There's a law in the books in Michigan where um, snowplow drivers are not supposed to push snow onto the road, or blowing your snow onto the road can create a hazard, especially if we've already plowed the road and traffic goes over that freshly dumped snow. It packs it down. Our trucks may not remove it from the road, and then you have a speed bump or a slippery patch that somebody might lose control on. So that's the main reason why you're not supposed to plow it into the road.
Hmm. So we should be putting our snow cleared from driveways onto the grassy areas and not into the street. That's a good point
Exactly.
about the speed bump thing. That is exactly what happens. Somebody puts, with a snow blower, a certain amount of snow, could be a lot, out into the street, and now we're going to bounce over that as we pass by, and that can be a little unsettling and maybe damaging to a car. So this is important to know. And of course, in this type of season, there's always this back and forth about clearing the end of your driveway, and then the plow comes through and leaves you with a pile of snow that you have to clear out. There's just no way to figure out the timing of that, is there?
It seems to happen every time, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
it happens in my own driveway. I get home at the end of the day, and there's a large pile of snow right across the end of the driveway from the plows. Um, it, it's kind of like nature living in Michigan in the wintertime, right? It's going to happen. The snow's got to go somewhere. The only spot it's going to go is to the side of the road. It's not an intentional thing to fill your driveway in, and it's almost always after you've cleared it. Just the nature of the timing and the amount of roads that we've got to travel, which is roughly 300 miles of road in town. Um, More than likely, you're going to get to your driveway cleared before we can get the road cleared. And it takes us a couple passes to go all the way around. If you see us go by once, just kind of hang tight. There's probably going to be another pass or two to clear the road and then clear your driveway. But I know myself, I'd like to keep the driveway cleared as much as I can,
Yeah.
and to make the snow, a little easier to manage. But it will get packed on the other driveway. Happens every year. Got to get the shovel up and shovel it again. It's
Unless
unfortunate,
you're,
but it's Michigan,
yeah,
right?
right. Unless you're like my neighbor, and some of you are, where you have this massive snowblower that can just chew all that up, which is really great. Make friends with that guy.
Exactly.
And then
Exactly.
maybe they'll help you.
Sometimes we've
300.
had people ask how they can get support. Maybe they're not able to, and
Yeah.
we've asked them to reach out to their neighbors. Maybe there's a neighbor that can help them. Local church groups sometimes have some members that are willing to help.
Yeah,
Um,
appreciate that point. All kidding aside, that's right. Some folks may have trouble with that. And so that is certainly an option to try and get some help to do that.
we've been spoiled the last couple of years and
We
have
have.
not had a winter to speak of. And every year you hear the same story. We're due. Um, we'll have to see if this is the year or if it's still to come.
Yeah, and after we've had this mild fall, you wonder if that's just another indicator that we're going to get walloped, huh?
You always expect we're going to pay for this. That's what you usually hear. Nice weather, a nice fall, and with the temperature's been a little warmer than perhaps the last few years, whether it's global warming that everybody talks about or what, but it can the a forecast for warmer than average temperatures and wetter than average precipitation doesn't necessarily mean snow. Sometimes that means ice. So you just
Yeah,
never know what the weather's going to bring until it's here.
that's true. You mentioned the stat 300 miles of roads in the city of Battle Creek. That's the equivalent of driving from here to Detroit and back. That's a lot of surface area.
Yeah, and that's actually the center line miles too. So if you look at each lane, it's considerably more than that.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, that's
we'll
pretty
travel
wild.
that distance on every snow.
When there's a snow emergency enacted, what does that really mean?
So a snow emergency is enacted, called for by the city manager's office when conditions warrant really no parking on any city street. So allows the plows to get everything as clear as possible. Um, at any other time, you're allowed to park on the road and we'll go around your car. But when the snow or ice or weather conditions warrant a snow emergency, then you have to move your car off the street into your driveway or another parking facility. We usually work with our police department to help us find owners for cars and make sure they're cleared. It just gives us an easier opportunity to get things cleared as quick as possible and get as the roads opened up and get everybody's life back to normal.
Yeah, and I presume my observation is that when there's a snow emergency uh, alert that has been sent out, that's because we're having an excessive amount of snow. And so it really then is helpful for us too to get the cars out of the way because you're going to go around it and then there's going to be a lot to clear just to get the car moving. So better to move it now before the plows come through than later after they have.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
if anytime there's a snow, if you're able to move your car off the road, it would be helpful for us. One less car to go around and less of a pile of snow after the fact.
Point well
Because
taken.
once we go around the car and that pile is there, um, even if the car moves, we may not be able to get back to clear that pile out again. And it just makes things a little easier if there's less cars on the road. The snow emergency helps us get to that point.
One final thing, there is something on the city's website called Snowpaths, which is actually allowing us to see on a map where the plows are.
Exactly. So we have AVL GPS trackers in our plow trucks, and it allows the residents, the community to see our progress through the city on any given snow event. We kind of track it like on a 4 hour interval. So if you get a snow on a Saturday night, you can get up in the morning, see what our progress is. It's not instant live, but it's within a 5 to 10 minute window of time, just to provide a little bit of delay in the reaction time of the map. But you can see it on your phone, you can see it on your personal computer, on your tablet, and gives the community a good gauge on how far our progress has been.
Well, that's pretty helpful too, just to have that information. We'll link, of course, the City of Battle Creek website in the show notes for this episode so you can click right through. Todd, this has been very informative. Thanks to you and your team for what you'll do for us coming up here shortly when maybe we will have snowmageddon. I don't know, but we'll see if we'll start paying for the warm weather we've had. And we appreciate your team being poised and ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Todd Gerber, Field Services Supervisor with the City of Battle Creek, here on the BC City Connection.